Welcome to the Gyrl podcast, the show where purpose meets inspiration. Each week, I sit down with incredible individuals who open up about their real life journeys, the wins, the setbacks, and the lessons in between. Whether you're navigating career moves, entrepreneurship, or just personal growth, you're in the right place. I'm Kyra Mitchell Lewis, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's glow up together. All right, happy Thursday, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic week. I hope life is treating you well. All right, well, let's go ahead and dive into today's guest. Today, I will be joined by Lindsay Friedman. Lindsay is a four-time founder, lifelong multi-generational caregiver, and former nursing assistant with hands-on experience in memory care and elder care. She is the founder of CareBloom and LTCareNav, a platform that connects families with vetted long-term care experts to make quality care more accessible and affordable. Lindsay combines tech, lived experience, and advocacy to empower families navigating complex care decisions and the caregivers who support them. So, she's going to be here to talk about how to reset, rebuild, and rise, caregiving, founding, and redefining success. Whew, that's a lot. So, all great things and looking forward to it. So, why don't we grab Lindsay and bring her into the show? All right, everyone, let's welcome Lindsay to the show. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, why don't we get started by having you tell our audience listening or watching who you are and what you do?
So, my name is Lindsay Friedman, and I am the founder of CareBloom and LTCareNav.com, two tech companies that serve the same long-term care caregiving space. We help families on the LTCareNav platform plan for long-term care. What does that look like? What's it going to entail? How much is it going to cost? How are you going to afford it? And what are the available options for you? So we look at it as we are your online senior care advisor that's free, and we really support you through that. CareBloom is a hardware product. We are like the eyes and ears. We're a virtual caregiver. We help families keep their loved ones in their home longer and make the caregiving process just a little bit easier.
Awesome. I love that. I know that these spaces were developed from a personal place for you. How did your own caregiving journey turn into this business that you've built today?
So I actually started as a professional caregiver working in memory care, hospice, assisted livings, nursing homes when I was really young, and stayed there for a really long time before I transitioned into more of I became an entrepreneur. And I love taking care of people, and so when my grandma needed care, I was sort of the great natural fit. I had all the experience. I was like, "I know how to shower, I know how to control dementia, I know how to do" I like, not control, but, like, I know how to do these things. And so I was like, "I'll do this," and I was in my young 30s, and I I realized that caring for a family member is completely different than caring professionally. Um Harder in so many different ways. There's so many more things you're juggling. It's now not just about the physical care. It's doctor's appointments, medications, understanding like where are you going to run out of money, what's available. Uh, and kind of was had a rude awakening of how unprepared I was. And I figured if I was unprepared, how unprepared are most people?
Mhm.
And actually, Care Bloom came first. Had an experience with my grandma that brought Care Bloom to life, and as we were doing installations of Care Blooms, because, as an entrepreneur, you wear, like, every hat, so installer was one of my many
Mhm.
hats. I actually started talking to families, and it turned out my experience was consistent across the board. There was not one family I spoke to that didn't have a million questions, and so that was really what led to the creation of LTCareNav, was how do we answer all the questions and support along a larger continuum?
Mhm. Awesome. I love that. Now, you have lived caregiving, from every angle, right? A professional, family member, and also a care recipient.
Yes.
How did that experience change the way that you lead and show up for others?
That I think it was a terrible experience. It was really traumatic on me, my family, and everybody. It happened really suddenly. I'd given birth to my daughter
Mhm.
and literally had a catastrophic nerve injury that like left my right side unable to really do much, had continence issues. Like I went from like perfectly fine to not fine hours later.
Mm.
Um, and And it was terrible. I mean, so much fell apart, and I actually became a different version of myself that I didn't even know during that period. So I was able to understand when I started getting out of it, what a care recipient actually endures. We always or a lot of us look at from the part of like, this is really hard for the caregiver. This is really challenging, all of these things to juggle. And, your care recipient might not be the best version of themselves, which I was not showing up as the best version of myself,
Mhm.
making it more difficult on people than it had to be, even though that wasn't my intention. I was just like suffering myself and really like the loss of independence. You
Mhm.
know, I was pushing back the way most care recipients do. And
Mhm.
when I was able to come out of it, I was able to look at it from a completely different perspective of, you know, there's a lot going on with that care recipient as well
Mhm.
and being able to structure more open conversations because no one really talked to me. Nobody sat down and said, "What do you want? What would you like out of this? How would you like to see your day realistically?"
Mhm.
And those conversations that could have reframed some of the relationships I had that fell apart.
Mhm.
But, hindsight. So now when I work with families, I understand the hardships of the caregiver, but really relating it to this is somebody you love. You love this person.
Mhm.
That's why you're doing this, right? And it's
Mhm.
hard. And to see it from both sides, because perspective adds a lot of depth into what you're experiencing.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's you said something that's really key that a lot of people don't think about is that it's what does the care recipient need and want. I think a lot of times when you see people get into these situations, especially a lot of times with elder care, it's just, okay, well, this person can't do this or they can't do that or they can't remember this or da, 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 and I'm just going to take over and this is what's going to happen. And you're right. And you do see it. There's the pushback that comes from like the recipient of the care because they're like still, I mean, I think people like sometimes forget like they're still people and that they still have feelings and emotions and that, just because someone finds themselves in a situation that where they may need help, it doesn't mean that they lost who they were as a person.
Absolutely. And some of the things I start to think about is like, because I had help in the house when I was going through some of this.
Mhm.
And it would be like, okay, we're going to get dressed now. And I'm like, well, I don't want to get dressed now. Well, this is like the schedule. We're going to get dressed. And I'm like, but I don't want to. And
Mhm.
right, like I'm comfortable the way I am. I don't want to
Mhm.
change. And I think this happens a lot. This is something you see very consistently, especially when I worked in memory care. Like, I don't want to do this right now. And you look at it as, okay, are you being combative? Are you being
Mhm.
difficult? But just remember if that person was independent and had autonomy and they didn't get want to get dressed right now, what would they not do?
Yeah, not
Get
get
dressed
dressed.
right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that would be a choice they made, and they would get dressed when they were ready. And we are now forcing things upon them that fit into our schedule as a caregiver
Mhm.
that doesn't fit into what they were thinking or what they would do if they had that independence. And I see a lot of butting heads in those kind of situations.
Mhm.
And I've been the caregiver in memory care who's tried to do this and knowing I'm on a schedule, and did my job and pushed even though they were unhappy about it. And once I got to that other side of it, I was like, "Oh, okay, now I feel a little bad about that pushing." Like,
Yeah. Um, Lindsay, what do you think about when it is when families care for other family members? Like what's your sort of professional take on that?
so I think a lot of it happens because we make promises of I'll be the one to take care of you. I'm going to do this for you. They look at it as something you do, like an obligation as a family member who
Mhm.
loves someone. And one thing I would say is you're not obligated to be a caregiver. if you were the daughter, that's where you're like, be the daughter.
Mhm.
Now, if you are stepping into the role because there's no one else to do it, I would remind family members, like, you're doing something really kind and really wonderful. It is going to be hard. There are going to be really hard days, but in this case of daughter and mom, always take that step back and say, "Mom, I'm your caregiver right now, but I need to find time to be your daughter." And carve out that space where that primary relationship isn't lost, because resentment might build in these kind of dynamics anyway, but if you can maintain some of that primary relationship, it'll help hold on to the moments.
Mhm. Thank you for that because I do think that's really important. And I think, the older that I've gotten, I've seen a couple of situations now where there have been family members caring for other family members, and I've seen the combativeness, so to speak, right? But them really just standing up for themselves and especially when you feel like you don't have any control over things. So I've seen them like standing up for themselves. I've seen slight, it's not intentional resentment, but it is just people, right? We're human. And I've seen that happen to where the person's like, well, I'm the only person that's going to do, da 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 da. And it's like, no, there are people out there that can help. Like, call people, like, get the help that you need in order to, because the care recipient and the caregiver, they still need like that time apart, that space. Like you said, I love what you said about just honoring the relationships, right? Like if you're the daughter, be the daughter, but then, you are the caregiver at moments, but never lose fact that you are the daughter and they're the parent. And I feel like sometimes that gets reversed in these roles and yeah, it starts to get a little wild out there.
And that's always been an interesting one to me because I've heard a lot of families where we get the adult child going, "I've become the parent."
Mhm, mhm.
And that to me, I think, sends off into a lot of that'll break down a relationship.
Right. Yep.
That
Right.
mindset,
Yeah.
right? And I know where they're saying something out of like, we help our children get dressed and now I'm helping mom get dressed, right? Like that kind of dynamic. But
Mhm.
really think about what parenting is.
Yeah.
The true definition of what when we parent, we are trying to instill morals and values and lead on the right path for a productive adulthood, right? That
Mhm.
is parenting.
Right. Yes.
And we're not doing that when we're caregiving. And we shouldn't be because that is a true role reversal. We're
Mhm.
that's not what we need. Like when somebody's going on the other side of life, right?
Right. Yeah.
And to kind of even reframe it from like caregiver to care partner, you have a loved one who you never parented, right? They might be your parent, they might be your spouse, they might be your partner, and they are going to try to do everything they can for themselves. In most cases, everybody is going to try to keep their independence as long as possible.
Right. Yep.
We step in when there is an inability to accomplish these tasks. So, I think reframing it, we're not giving them the task. We're not like we shouldn't be just thrusting what we can do on them, but
Mhm.
instead partnering with them and seek
Mhm.
where the deficits are and letting them do as much as they can and stepping in for that piece that's needed.
Mhm. Yeah. I think I like that. I think that's a way that people probably haven't thought about it in the past, right? So yeah, a partnership. I like that. Lindsay, well, let's talk about women. Do you find that women avoid planning for long-term care? And how does proactive planning actually become an act of self-worth and self-protection?
So I think everybody avoids planning for long-term care.
Yeah.
Um, and it is going to hit women harder than anyone else. The lack of planning from our previous generation, and if we don't plan, it's going to hit us harder. And what I'm talking about with that is, as the women, we tend to be the caregivers, which means we are going to take care of our mothers, our fathers, our mother-in-laws, our father-in-laws in a lot of cases. If there's not a sister-in-law there to step in,
Mhm.
So we are going to give up a chunk of our lives to take care of the generation before us,
Mhm.
which means we're going to have lost income, lost
Mhm.
401ks, all of these things. We're going to be exhausted. Those are all things that are going to hit us as the lack of planning for the generation above us. We're also going to get harder because as women, we're going to most likely outlive our husbands.
Mhm.
It's just a fact. And if we don't plan as our generation for our husbands, for us, we're going to be the ones who are then going to become the burdens on our daughters.
Mhm.
And so the cycle's going to continue. So I'm trying really hard to work with families, especially caregivers who are already in the thick of it, of
Mhm.
let's figure out how a better way to care for your parents and let's create a plan for you. Because if you
Mhm.
have a plan in place, you're going to keep your autonomy, you're going to be financially more secure, you're not going to have to know that you're going to burden your children with it. There's so many great things that come out of planning, both for you today by helping your parents and for you tomorrow.
Right. No, I love that. Yeah, I love that. I love the encouraging words of like just do it. I think a lot of times people are like, well, no, I'm not like it doesn't mean you're gonna die tomorrow. You could die anytime, obviously, or you could get sick or anything could happen. But isn't it much better to know that you're actually prepared for it? Like you said, so you're not leaving a sort of burden on the next generation, your children, to have to deal with the same thing. And I think, like you mentioned, if anyone sees parents, parents or people who are parent figures, if they see them planning ahead, then it becomes a thing that it's like, oh, then I know that like it's okay to go ahead and do this. It doesn't mean something's going to happen. We're just going to be prepared.
Absolutely. And that's kind of how you look at it. Think about all the things you plan for that never happen versus the things you're not planned
Mhm.
for. I feel like we always
Right.
stumble on things, but when we have a good plan, maybe it doesn't hurt as much because we move forward. But
Mhm.
I talk to a lot of people about just because you say I'm putting aside money for care or for an assisted living or understanding where I'm going to do that doesn't mean that has to happen.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't, it's not like that whatever you planned, like if you put money away is gone, you'll have it to be a 90-year-old badminton player or something, right? Like whatever you choose to do, it's not going away. It's just a cushion to know if this happens, you're in a good place because w- we're all facing mortality and it doesn't matter how old you are. We're all going to get older. We're all going to get to that point in our lives.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that. All right, let's talk about a little bit about your experience as an entrepreneur. So, you have missed the mark twice, because or because sometimes I like to say fell forward, fell fast, a couple of times as a founder, and you've rebuilt again. How did those moments reshape your confidence, purpose, and definition of what success looks like to you?
So my first startup, I was pretty young when I failed, and it was hard. I learned a lot from actually both of the companies that weren't successful. And
Mhm.
that's what I take out it now looking back. What I learned is now we're putting on the entrepreneur hat. I learned if you don't really know your market and you are not truly understanding the problem and the stakeholders,
Mhm.
then you're not going to have a successful company.
Right.
And my first 2 companies were in the tech space. I learned a lot about technology. I built some cool tech at the time,
Mhm.
but I didn't really know the people who were gonna use it. I built something I thought was cool. There wasn't a
Mhm.
real problem. I knew the problems that were facing long-term care and caregiving intimately. I saw the challenges. I knew where the pain points were. So going into these companies, it felt more authentic to me. And it really that helped in what I was building.
Mhm. I love that, and that's so true. Now, with you being an entrepreneur and in the work in the businesses that you operate, we were talking about this before we started our recording about just that finding that time. Like, What do you do to find balance in being a founder, a mom, a caregiver without losing yourself? And what do women get wrong about doing it all most of the time?
So, like we said before, and I'll be, like, super honest, I think I get a lot of it wrong when it comes to this. Um, I know, like, the right things, I know what's supposed to happen, I'm just not executing on it as well as I should be, but as you and I talked, like, it time for yourself, feel like you need that, you need the reset, like you were even telling me with your experience, like, just taking a half a day,
Yes.
you felt completely different and rested, and I feel like I'm failing at that miserably at the moment. Um, but I think that's such great advice, and maybe, like, this weekend, I'm gonna follow suit on what you were saying, and maybe it'll go better.
That's right, because we're all work in progress. And it's so easy because when you are an entrepreneur, it's so easy to just keep working. Because I find myself on Saturdays where I finish up with the facilitation things, and then I'm like, oh, I can work on this. And then I will literally say, I'm gonna just do this from 10 to 2. And then next thing I know, it's like 3 o'clock and I'm still at my desk working. And so there's always that moment, where you have all these ideas and all these things, but you have to just allow yourself the grace to say, it will be here. Even if you just say, I'll come back later tonight. I'm going to give myself 5 hours to go sit and watch a show, go out for dinner, do something that I want to do, whatever. And even if you come back later in the evening, but just start small, cause I know, saying it I know to anyone listening out there who is, building something, and when the ideas start flowing, they start flowing, and so sometimes you're like, "I know it's Saturday and I need to get this out." But allow yourself, that moment to, breathe, because if not, then it just kinda sneaks up on you, and, that's how I felt, coming into last weekend. I was like, "Oh my god, I have to take a break," or I feel like something's gonna happen, so I need to stop. I reminded myself because I've been talking about I've liked to craft, and I've been talking about crafting for 3 weeks to one of my friends. I was like, I haven't been in my craft room. I keep walking by it and waving at it. And on Saturday, I was like, you know what? Going into the craft room, I went in there and I put my record on and started crafting. And I did about 2 hours, and then I went and did something with my husband, and then on Sunday, I even found a few hours to sneak in there as well. Since I was not doing any work, I was like, oh, gonna craft today too. And I felt so refreshed.
That's
So,
fantastic. Yeah, no, I'm super guilty of, the thing that I've been doing is at, like, 10 o'clock, like, when s that I try to wind down by, like, 10:30, but, like,
mhm.
I've been picking up my computer at 10 o'clock, and my husband looks over at me, I'm like, "I've got one thing to do," and it'll be, like, 11:30 at night, he'll be like, "So, that's a massive one thing you're doing right there," and I'm like, "Probably turned into, like, 2."
I know. It's like you start and then you can't stop. So, but in all that, still give yourselves grace, because we're always growing. And sometimes you might not sleep well that night if you don't do that one thing. So I certainly understand that too.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna use that. I'm not gonna sleep well on this
Ah,
hour is gonna buy me
Lindsay,
6 hours
Lindsay,
of sleep.
no, Lindsay, don't you tell your husband that. I want him coming for me. Uh, so Lindsay, for women who are starting over, who might be, at the midpoint of their life, the second season, whether after an illness, burnout, or a failed, situation, what does a real glow up look like beyond the aesthetics of it all or the hustle culture?
So, I think it's finding something that drives you. What is your passion? To find a path that brings you joy, even though some days obviously are gonna be harder than others if you're building a company or something like that. But the population that I'm trying to serve and improve their lives matters to me. This what I'm building and what I'm hoping to do by changing the way we plan, the way we age, is something that I've cared about for 30 years. And I think when you find that, when you find something that is truly authentic, truly something that you know you can be proud of, it's worth pursuing, and that is what a glow up looks like, is finding something that you can say, like, "I'm doing something and it's gonna matter."
Yes, I love that. All right, Lindsay, tell everyone listening or watching about how they could work with you and how they can connect to you.
So if you go to ltcarenav.com/podcasts, you'll be able to see that this episode there. And also, we're giving away a free ebook about planning, why it's important. And we're giving away 25% a month off of CareBloom.
Awesome. Love that. Awesome. Why don't we transition now to three things with Lindsay? I'm going to ask you three more questions that just helps our audience get to know you a little bit better. The first one, this is a doozy. How do you start and end the day?
Um, I start the day by my teenage daughter telling me I'm not moving fast enough. E Every school day, that is how it starts. Um, and I end the day typically by putting my computer down when I can't when there's no more time, when I'm so tired, that I'm gonna change that, I'm gonna try to improve on that. But that's literally the start and end of my day.
Awesome. What's a current goal or intention that you're focusing on?
Um, I guess trying to make some time for myself. Bringing that in, giving my daughter some more time, finding more a better balance between what needs to be done and what I want to do.
Mhm. Okay, I like it. And the third question is, where are you currently finding inspiration?
Oh, there's inspiration everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, I can find inspiration in a lot of places, even just talking to wonderful people like you, finding energy, I love hearing what people are doing, what excites them, because then it just reminds me of why I'm motivated to do something.
Mhm. Awesome. I love it. Well, Lindsay, thank you for coming here and really talking about a topic that a lot of people, it's not something that people like to talk about is long-term care. People don't like to talk about caregiving. But I think like just having you here and just walking through your own experience and just what I love about it is that, like you said, you care and you've cared for a really long time about helping people to care for others. And also, I like this partnership. And I think it's awesome that people should see it as a partnership and not just say, I have to take care of someone, but not forgetting the person, that they are still a person with feelings and opinions as well, like they still have feelings and they still are showing up for themselves just like you're showing up for them. So just partner together.
Yeah.
um, and I want to ask you one last question before I let you go. It's what are three things you'd like our listeners or watchers to take away from today's conversation?
That caregiving is hard. Find somebody to support you. If you don't have family member, go to a support group. Learn to ask for what you need as the caregiver. What kind of support do you need? It'll make your experience far better. Remember to plan for yourself, especially if you're a caregiver, because you don't want to do this to your children. And then lastly, there are a lot of options and a lot of support out there for both the care partner and the care recipient. So explore those. And if you come to LT Care Nav, we're also here to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lindsay, so much for sharing with us today in this community. And you can always come back and see us in the future.
Thank you so much. I love that.
Awesome. Stay tuned, everyone. All right. Welcome back. And let's thank Lindsay again for joining the show today. Make sure you check out the show notes if you'd like to learn more about her and the work she does. Also, if you'd like to learn more about Glow Up Girl, make sure you visit us at glowupgirl.com. You can sign up for our newsletter, get tools, insights, and inspiration for your glow up journey. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are at Glow Up Girl, and wherever you're listening, don't forget to rate, review, and also share. It helps more people find the show. And if you're sharing on social media something that you think we should see, make sure you tag us in so we can cheer you on. All right. Also, if you're a brand and you're looking to partner with a community of women chasing big dreams, we are accepting sponsorship. So you can make sure you reach out anytime at hello@glowupgirl.com. All right. I just want to say thank you again so much for taking time out of your day to spend with me. I will see you all next week. So until then, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.